Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Streamed and Screened, an entertainment podcast about movies and TV from Lee Enterprises. I'm Terry Lipschutz, managing editor of the National Newsroom at Lee and co-host of the program with Bruce Miller, editor of the Sioux City Journal and a longtime entertainment reporter. And this episode it's going to the dogs. I can tell you right from the top that this thing is going to go off the
for the dogs.
We're headed for the dogs. But you are the ultimate dog lover. I mean, you have you got multiple dogs, right? You walk them all day.
Right.
You're a dog sitter.
I complain about the friends who have dogs, and I say, get them off me. I am tired of this. And they, he likes you. He really likes you. No, he doesn't.
I know. I'm with you. I am not a dog. I'm a cat person. I have a cat, and I love my cat dearly. But I just from the get-go, dogs they're very, they can be very in your face, and obviously a lot of maintenance. I live in Wisconsin, and I'm not sure if I'm prepared to go walking a dog when it's minus 10 outside. So it's a lot of effort there. And then I'm not gonna lie, I had a few bad experiences as a paper boy when I was a young lad being chased down. It was one of those. It's never the big dogs. Like both of my brothers have labs. I think they're both labs, and they're very friendly. Like I can, I'm like, you're nice. I'll pet you a little bit, but you can leave me alone now.
Yeah.
But they're fine, and they're big dogs. You can almost ride them like a horse. But those little ones, it's like they have an inferiority complex, and then they go yip 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 yip. And that's what would chase me every day I was delivering newspapers when I was, like 12 years old. So
I have a friend who has a dog that will come sit next to you, which I think is okay. You can sit next to me, but then it starts pushing me over like I'm in its space. No, I was sitting here and then you came. You can move over on the other end. We're not sharing the couch. I will sit here. So yeah, I do have issues with dogs. I had a dog as a kid and I also had a cat as a kid. So I got to compare both of those. And I must tell you that those two got along really, really well. When the cat had kittens, the dog took over kind of parenting and would take the cats over and, put them somewhere or make sure they were going to be fed. I mean, they were very good. And when the dog died, the cat came over and rested its head on the dead dog and tried to get the dog to wake up. I mean, is there a harder story to tell than that? It was a lot to see. And I realized I didn't need any more pets. I'm good. I do not need another pet. I need to be walked. That's the deal.
So you, the listener, you're probably wondering, why are Terry and Bruce rambling on about dogs and cats? But this is tied into, we're a little bit later in the program. You have a very special interview, which is very much dog themed. So we'll get back to that shortly. But this past weekend, a lot of news coming out of Disney. I mean, there's a whole line of movies, but it's again like what's old is new again. I mean, that's what we're getting here. A lot of sequels.
They have this convention every couple of years called D23. It's really for fans, like hardcore fans that just want to hear everything. And it's like you're going to an Amway convention where you're cheering everything that's going on and you're excited and you're all pumped up. And they love everything that they tell them. And then when the day ends or the weekend ends, they go, wait a minute here now. We're getting what, when? And does that mean we have to get rid of what, when? And so it's a lot of hype, but not necessarily a lot of content.
Yeah, it is a lot of hype. I mean, a few things. The Moana 2, I guess they gave the full trailer. They finally released like the big main one. That movie comes out later this year. I'm pretty excited for that. I really enjoyed the first Moana movie. I have to look at the list of Pixar movies again. I'm pretty sure that's my favorite recent Disney animated movie. There's probably been a few others after that, but
Inside Out 2?
That was good. Yeah. No, that one, yeah, that was good. But I mean, I'm thinking of like the big, like epic, I guess more, not so much the Pixar, but the traditional, if you want to call it the Disney princess type movies, right? Okay. Where the fairy tale. I feel like Moana was really, really good. I mean, I enjoyed the original Frozen movie, the second one not so much, but it looks good. So, I think we're gonna go with the kids this fall to see it. But there's some other things that came out. There's another, and it's on the heels of the much derided Acolyte from Star Wars, which did not go over very well with fans. Like critics enjoyed it. I was kind of like hit and miss. Like the first episode or two, I was like, "Oh, this is pretty good," and then we went into this turn of just like, "What am I watching?" And it kind of rebuilt itself near the end, and then there's a little bit of a twist in the last episode. We're like, "All right, well, I guess I'm in for season two if this is what you're showing me." But it was very like inconsistent. So the next one up on the list is called Skeleton Crew, and I don't know if you saw the trailer to this, but they've released the trailer at D23 and then they popped it online. And as soon as I saw it, I'm like, this is Star Wars meets ET meets the Goonies meets Stranger Things. It actually looks, it's like it has that look, like a 1980s look to it. I guess the movie itself takes place after, in the timeline, it would be after Return of the Jedi. And it's sort of in line with the newer Mandalorian kind of timeline, but it follows kids. It's like kids, and it shows like this neighborhood, and it looks like just suburbia USA, but in the galaxy where there's rows of houses and curbs and trams instead of buses and stuff like that. But then they go on this kids kind of like fall into almost like a Goonies-esque adventure. There's a skeleton, there's like these secret things, and it looks like, I saw it like, whoa, this looks pretty good. My daughter saw it, she's like, whoa, this looks good. My wife looks at it and she's like, I'd watch this. I'm in for this. So, and I've seen a few YouTubers who are a little bit more skeptical, especially one that calls himself Star Wars Theory. He's like, has probably the biggest following of Star Wars people on YouTube, and he was very critical of the Acolyte. And even he's like, I'm all in for this one. It looks that good.
Do you think, though, they sit at these meetings, they go, now, what haven't we picked at yet? What should we monetize?
Right.
And they're looking at all these concepts that they have, and we haven't tried that. Let's do that. We'll have kids, and we'll just set them in the future.
I think with this one, it gets back to, there's two things that I think benefit here. Like, you have Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau kind of tag teaming. They don't direct it or anything, but I think it's kind of, they gave it their blessing sort of type of thing. So there's some involvement with them, not necessarily day to day. So I think there's some storytelling there. But the other thing is, unless there's somebody shows up, like a Yoda shows up or whatever,
they can do whatever they want.
They can do whatever they want. It's not attached to anything. There's no existing characters that we're aware of. The biggest star we know that's in it is Jude Law, who plays it could be either an ex-Jedi or just a force sensitive dude who can, make things move with his mind. But it's not like there's no Chewbacca here. There's no Han Solo type of, it's totally in its own little universe. And I think if nothing else, this is, when you look at some of the, like Andor, like why was Andor so good? And it's because they just completely removed themselves from all of the Star Wars characters that we know so well. Like some of them kind of move in and out, so there is a little bit of overlap, but they let Andor just kind of do its own thing. And they show this world outside of just fighting and Jedi and all that stuff. So I think that's where this one looks like it could be a winner. It could be terrible, and it's just they make a trailer look good to get you interested. So we'll see what happens there. But the other thing is they did tease a clip. They started filming The Mandalorian and Grogu, which I think comes out in 2026. So it's a long way off, and they just felt compelled, like, hey, we're here. We have to show you something. So I guess, they busted out a clip. I haven't seen anything surface online yet. So, but there's a long wait. I mean, we're looking at almost 2 years for that one to come out.
We won't be even alive when some of this stuff lands. But I keep wondering, did they ever have fun in that Star Wars world? Were they always on missions and trying to, accomplish something? What happened to just kind of, we're going to go home and watch TV tonight, or we're going to we're throwing on a hologram and we're going to have some pizza.
You know, the two things that always get at me with Star Wars, first off, all the characters always wear gloves. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't like wearing gloves when it's winter out and it's freezing because my hands get all sweaty. It's like, aren't their hands all sweaty? And then the other thing is like, what do those stormtroopers smell like? They're always in
Oh,
those, they must reek. I mean, unless they've got some sort of, like, do stormtroopers get a special uniform that helps combat body odor? I mean, other than that, they got to be grimy and dirty. It's just,
and you have to be the right size.
I want to see a movie, right? They got to fit right. I want to see a movie where it just shows them, kind of in between battles, like heading into a locker room to shower up, and at least I know they're clean. Okay, they had a chance to recharge and and take care of personal hygiene. But yeah, so that's kind of what's going on with that. We know we have a name now for the new Avatar movie that comes out sometime between now and the year 3065, Avatar Fire and Ash, which it feels like it's 14 years in the making. So
So we'll have all these elements: water, air, fire, and they're doing another theme park ride. I
yeah,
think this one is at Disneyland, maybe.
okay,
But it's not the same thing as we see at Animal Kingdom. But it's like, what is all this?
right.
Do I need another Cars Land? And this one is not going to go to Radiator Springs. It's going to go into mountains and stuff. Okay, I get it.
Yeah. So, and then we know there's a third Incredibles movie in development. Toy Story 5 is going to come in summer of 2026.
And apparently, new technology in 5 is what, iPads and stuff like that make the toys irrelevant.
Okay. That might be fun.
So maybe they're fighting the battle with, maybe that's a Star Wars one right there.
Yeah, yeah. And then Zootopia 2 comes out in November 2025. So a lot of animated stuff. Zootopia was one. I kind of dug that one. That was a fun one.
And there is a theme park in Shanghai
Okay.
that is Zootopia themed. And I think they're going to just borrow parts of that and bring that over to Animal Kingdom or one of whatever it is. You can't tell these apart. It used to be Hollywood Studios was just movie related. And then they put movie related things in other parks.
Yeah.
And then, so what is the theme here? I don't know. People are upset that the dinosaur ride might be disappearing very soon, because that's where they're going to put the new Indiana Jones ride in Animal Kingdom. It has the same track. It's the same track they use at Disneyland is used at Animal Kingdom for dinosaur. So all they have to do is take all the dinosaurs out and then, put in the Indiana Jones stuff, and they got a ride all done. But to me, I would love to go to one of those because they have all this merchandise that you can look at that you'll never see anywhere else, and people just buy it up like crazy. I wonder, am I that taken with this that I would spend money for a commercial? Because that's what it seems like, at least.
Right.
And I'm a big Disney fan, but geez.
I love it, but yeah, I'll get to see it firsthand. We're heading to Florida over spring break, so
Go on the riverboat and the other, I think Columbia, the sailing ship, they're disappearing. They're taking away the rivers of America. So you won't be able to ride those anymore so that they can put in the Cars thing and Villains Land.
I just want to get to the Star Wars one. That's all I care about.
Well, you missed that hotel they had. They've already dumped that.
Well, it seems like everybody missed it because nobody stayed there. We have a condo, so we'll
those YouTubers who think, oh, I love this. This is going to be so big. And then real people go to it and they go, not that good for the price.
No, well, that's what it comes down to is you can serve up all the blue milk you want to make you feel like you're in Star Wars, but if you're charging 600 a night or whatever it was, something crazy, and you're not delivering the experience on top of it, it's just
no, and the rooms looked really bad.
Yeah.
They didn't look like they were comfortable, but they could easily take that concept and put it somewhere. Like it could be on a cruise ship.
Sure.
You could go on a Star Wars cruise. That's a big thing, is that all this stuff is coming out about Disney. Hopefully that'll mean that their stock prices will go up. And, people don't have to worry about, it's tanking. It's tanking. And Universal's coming out with its new Epic Adventures theme park. So, who knows where this all ends. But they don't put dates on it. They don't say this will all be done by 2030. It could be 2035 or 2040.
Or it could get canceled. I mean,
Yeah.
you could say like, "Hey, we're gonna do this," and then all of a sudden the stock tanks, and they're like, I
And they
guess we're
bring in a
not."
new person in charge of all of that. And they said, it's not my plan.
Yeah,
We're
I
going to
mean,
play with it.
this is all under Bob Iger, but Bob Iger is also just a placeholder until the next person shows up because he came back to kind of rescue Disney from itself. So we'll see how long it takes to kind of get that going. Now, beyond D23, there's a little bit of a controversy, right? Right. We're talking about the like the Barbenheimer
Of 2024 is supposed to be Deadpool, and then it ends with us. That's because of Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool and his wife, Blake Lively, in It Ends With Us. So they think there'd be great synergy that this should happen. Now that we'll get these two films together, we'll just plow everybody under during the summer. But there's a little problem now with the co-star and director of It Ends With Us, Justin Baldoni, who stars in it with Blake Lively, for some reason is on the outs with the Lively Reynolds family. And they don't stand together when they're at the premieres. People have talked about how they don't talk to each other, that Ryan and Blake went in and kind of tinkered with the film after it was done. I mean, it sounds like, what is this? Well, I did go to see It Ends With Us this last weekend. It's a Nicholas Sparks kind of thing. It's one of those, romances that go over a period of years, and then you've got to figure out, well, what's going on here? And it's about spouse abuse, basically. It's too long. It's way too long. It's 2 hours and like 10 minutes, please. And it was crowded when I went to the theater. The people next to me, like, almost were camping. They had so much plans to sit there. She came out with a huge bag. They had blankets for everybody. Then she had snacks in there. She had beverages in there. And I thought, how do you get this stuff in? And then she went and got popcorn. So they'd have popcorn to boot on this whole thing.
You can only sneak in so much.
It was longer than it should be, too, because it went on forever. And it's typical stuff. There's nothing special about it at all. But that is that they watch the news about that because every day something new comes out about who's on the outs. Justin, I knew back from the days of Jane the Virgin. Nice guy, very nice guy. Wanted to be a director, did get some directing work, did get, good results from those early directing efforts, and then landed in this. And I don't know if this is going to be some kind of a Waterloo for him or what, but It Ends With Us could end with him. Okay, now we're looking at this next week of things you got to look for.
Okay.
After Baywatch. Now, this is I think, brilliant idea. Baywatch, the TV series. Do you know that is the most watched series of any ever?
Doesn't surprise me. I mean, everybody loves, as we learned from Saturday Night Live, all Germans love David Hasselhoff, right?
Well, brilliant. It had more than 1 billion viewers on a weekly basis when it was international, because it lasted 1 year on NBC, was canceled, and then went syndicated. And it created all of these careers of people who wore swimming suits and basically looked good running on slow motion on the beach. They decided to go back. Nicole Eggert, who was one of the lifeguards in the show, a real big fan, decided that they were going to go back and do kind of a reunion show, if you will, and just look back. What did this mean to us? Well, they found that there was a lot more there than what they ever could have imagined, because back in those days, people took a lot of videotape. And so they talked to the stars, got a lot of videotape from them, and tried to relive what the moment was to be, at the time, the biggest stars in the world, and where they went and what they could do and how difficult it was being part of this Baywatch world. And, they said, and all the time that we were doing it, people were making fun of us and saying that the show was no good and it was just trash. And yet here it was, this #1 show that had a worldwide audience. They said that people outside of the United States were more supportive because they weren't making fun of it. And they thought that it was showing what the American dream actually looked like. They looked at Baywatch and they thought that's what America's like. Who knew that people thought we were supposed to be running in Speedos on the beach at Malibu? But it is fascinating to see them now. And like Nicole says, people are shocked when they look at me now and say, you don't look at all like you looked back then. Well, no, because it's how many years later?
Right.
30-some years later. And so it's fun to hear them talk. I did a story on them, and I talked to a number of the ones who are in it. And Carmen Electra said, I wasn't an actress. I knew nothing. I came from MTV. I did things with Prince. But then they hired me for this. And she said, I had no idea that when they said, now you're going to make out with David Chokachi, that you just pretend. She said, I just went for it. And she said, who knew until they told me, no, you don't need to do all that in this. She said, but that's how I thought acting was. Yeah. So you will see a lot of fun little stories in the course of this. It's 4 episodes.
Okay.
You'll get a chance to see what they were like and what was going on during that time.
That might be fun to, even though I was never really into the show, just like I know it. I mean, I just never got into it, but from a cultural standpoint, that would be a fascinating thing to watch. And that's going to be on, is that a Hulu or?
Hulu is where you find it. I mean, don't all roads lead to Hulu?
Everything is back on Hulu.
Well, okay. So now, are you ready to talk dogs?
One more. Well, there is one other thing, and you might actually see me in the movie theater this weekend.
Oh, what?
Alien Romulus.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yes. So
you really want to see that, though?
I do. Yeah.
It sounds like a reboot.
So I'm kind of mixed on it. It sounds like Ridley Scott gave it his blessing that he's
producer.
He is a producer, but he also, it wasn't his baby like the earlier ones were. So it's kind of on its own. I've read a few early reviews just to kind of get a sense of, do I actually want to see this now, or should I? My wife and kids are going to be out of town this weekend, so I've got to find something for me to do. And I love the Alien series. Like, I don't like scary movies. Like, I don't like horror. And I know this is technically a space horror movie, but it's not. It's more of just, to me, it's more like sci-fi with a little bit of, aliens busting out of people's chests. But I feel like I'm going to go to this one, but it looks like the early reviews say it's not trying to like do too much. It's its own thing. It's not like trying to pander to nostalgia. It's kind of like set in its own little world, and it works. So,
good.
It sounds like it's going to be okay. So we'll see. Like, I'll look on Friday to see if there's any reviews pop out. If anyone else sees it, and if it gets universally panned, I'll wait a few months. But if not, I'm heading to the theater for this one.
Disney Hollywood Studios, Disney MGM Studios, Disney, whatever it was called, they had the Great Movie Ride. And you went through, and one of the scenes was Sigourney Weaver in Alien. And they had the thing come out of the ceiling and then scare the hell out of you. Yeah. But all I could look at was, gee, they really did a poor job on Sigourney Weaver. She looks tough in this animatronic that they've got. They should have been a little maybe darker in the lighting in that area so she didn't look, because I thought, what happened to Sigourney Weaver? She doesn't look that bad, does she?
No, I know. I remember. Yeah, I remember going on that ride. But I thought that the 2 more recent Alien movies, they were okay. I didn't think they were spectacular, but they weren't. I didn't feel like they were horrible either. And there is going to be a show coming to Hulu, right? They're turning it into a turning Alien or FX for Hulu.
And it's done by the guy who did Fargo.
Right.
And it'll include some of those people who you've seen in Fargo series.
Yeah.
So they're making it now in Europe. So
it feels like this could be kind of its own, we're always talking about, the Marvel universe and Star Wars and stuff because it's Disney, but it feels like this could kind of turn into, it's already has a large like franchise to it, but it feels like this can really just take it on forever. Ridley Scott's like 86 years old, so he's still doing it.
He's got Gladiator 2 coming out at Christmas.
Yeah, that's right.
Which could be his big way of getting that Oscar that always seems to avoid him. Mm-hmm. He did the original Gladiator, didn't even get an Oscar for it. Now, how bad is that?
Yeah, I know.
This is one you need to toss him a freebie.
Exactly. I'm with you. So we do have, moving from aliens to other creatures. you have an interview and you
Okay.
had a, yeah, what, so
Cesar and I were talking. And, ask 20 people and they'll all tell you a different way to pronounce his name. Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer, is how he's known. And he's got this show called Better Human, Better Dog. And he maintains that the problem with those kind of restless dogs that don't leave me alone is that the humans aren't trained well. So you've got to train the human before you can get to the dog. Dogs are willing to follow the blueprint. Humans aren't. Okay. And I said, well, what, he wants to take this internationally. And I said, well, will they understand it in the other countries? And he says, dogs understand the same language we speak wherever we go, because it's all just gestures. And he says they can sense right away when you're nervous or you're worried about the dog, and they seize on that. Cesar is lots of fun. He's been around forever as the dog whisperer. And he's got a lot of animals at his sanctuary that he calls home. He's got donkeys and birds, and you'll see this in the series. If you happen to watch it, you think, what is that zoo he's living at? He's got all these things. And he said they get along really well because it's a matter of just teaching them to respect each other's boundaries. So that's my problem. I not respected their boundaries.
there you go. You gotta get out of their face and just
Let them go.
let them go. Okay, so you have this interview with Cesar Millan or Mian or
However you pronounce it, you just go for it, because I've even tried it online. And when I asked, I was there doing the interview and I said, what's the right way to pronounce his name? They didn't know. And then I thought, is this a dumb question to ask him? Cesar, tell me, how do I pronounce your name?
just call him the dog whisperer.
He's of the mind that whatever you call him is fine.
Okay, well that makes sense. All right, so here's that interview.
I've wanted 20 years. Come on, 20 years. What have you learned about yourself in that period of time?
I learned that my spirit is really strong. I learned that my instincts are very in tune. I learned that my heart is very passionate, and I learned that my mind is very creative, right? In order for me to be in a country like America, speaking English to a completely different, traditional way of being, because Americans are different than Latinos, and so how they learn, how they feel, how they act is completely different. And so I definitely feel really blessed.
Well, have dogs continued to teach you things? Are you learning things from them now even, or do you think you know everything?
What I do know is I'm going to help you. That's what I love, right? So I don't know your case, well, somebody's case, but I do have this confidence, and between God, the pack, and my creativity, we're going to be able to make it happen, right? So that's really good. But I obviously, a dog that lives with you is going to absorb your energy, your philosophy, action, which I never work with. So, so if I go to China and I work with somebody over there, I never work with them, right? So definitely it's something that I'm going to learn, how to speak to that culture, and so I can help their dog.
Do dogs in different countries communicate differently, or are they basically the same wherever?
So only human has different traditions and different language. But a dog in China is the same thing as a dog in Mexico, a dog in America, a dog in England, nose, eyes, ears. So a dog is nose, eyes, ears. And so they don't really use the language as much as they smell, they see, and then they do. And so they're going to pick up on your energy. They're going to tell you about their energy. And they're also going to say, hey, I haven't walked, I haven't played, I haven't explored. And so your job is to decode what's missing, how he feels, and then how to help. But the humans are the only ones that are different.
Are humans harder to teach than a dog? Definitely.
Yeah, because the human has a choice to do it wrong and a choice to do it right. And with a dog, your choice is their choice.
Have you ever been a cat person or not?
I have 2 cats for the first time in my life, and I'm enjoying with a cat, you have to understand the instincts are more than domestication, right? So they go more into the hunting way of being, and versus the dog goes more into the calm surrender way of being, right? So the dog can do like funny things, silly things, versus the cat, before he does that, he does instinctual things.
So you're learning. Would you ever be the cat whisperer? Would that ever happen?
I need hundreds of cats to take to that level. I have thousands of dogs, so definitely dog whisperer, I earned it. Cat whisper, not yet. I'm still a student.
We're still waiting for that one. You know, whenever I go visit friends and they have dogs, the dogs come to me right away. They're like jumping on me and all that. What is that? And is it just my own sense of insecurity that says, I don't want this right away? What do I need to do?
But two reasons why would a dog will go into your intimate space, right? Because it's coming into your intimate space and jumping, right? So if you're an excited human, like most dog lovers are, they do that. And so they make that reaction. Or if you are an unsure human, you're not claiming your space. You see it? So if you're too soft or too excited, they go right in.
So what should I do? Should I just be kind of
calm, confident, no touch, no talk, no eye contact? You breathe so your bubble can get bigger, right? And then it's like when people, so it's three kinds of people: dog lovers, people who are afraid of dogs, people who don't like dogs. So people who don't like dogs, they claim a big space. They're quiet, they don't say nothing. People who are afraid of dogs, they actually advertise the fear. And dog lovers go, oh, people who don't like dogs actually is better than the other two.
Sure. I have a friend who had two dogs and one died. And the dog that is still living has a very difficult time of dealing with just everything. The dog is eating at different hours, is not sleeping like she used to. What does he need to do for that dog?
What he needs to do is go for a long walk. The long walk would allow you to move things out of the mind, create hunger, tiredness. You let the dog fast, bring the hunger up, start all over again.
And it'll be a reset for the dog that'll be like, okay, good.
It's the same thing as when Americans go to India or Peru. What do? They walk for a long time. They call fasting and they eat a little bit of rice.
Well then, okay, now I have all these friends with dog problems, so I'm sharing them with you. How do you keep a dog from peeing in the house?
Well, if the dog has developed a habit of dominance or territorial, you need to find out what triggers, right? What triggers that. If the person is given too much water and not enough outlet, that's another one, And so we need to find out what triggers that. Or the dog just developed a habit because the human was not going to be punctual with the organization, right? Because that has to do with discipline. When you're like an astronaut or like an Olympic person, they can't just drink water. They can't just eat food, right? So once we treat a dog that way, we're going to teach them like an astronaut or an Olympian, right? And then what happens is you learn to control your organs, self-control. And so if you have self-control, you have self-discipline. You see it? So that has to do with like, what is what the human believes and how the human teach the dog to pee all over the house.
We want to go for the gold, not clean up the gold. Is that the deal?
You see what I mean? So unconsciously, we teach wrong habits. So, so obviously that when I go to people's home, I say, oh, this is a dominant thing. Oh, this is a territorial thing. Oh, this is a bad habit thing. Oh, this is way too much water.
Have you ever had a time where you really couldn't train a dog?
Not the dog, the human. So, there are some humans who didn't do that. Listen, you can learn everything you need to know about life, but you still have to do the homework. Tony Robbins can teach you everything you need to do, Oprah can teach you whatever you want. And Deepak Chopra, me, I can teach you everything in one day. You still have to do the homework. You see it? So,
and that's where we fall.
That's where the human falls. The human has a choice of not do the homework.
So when we see somebody say, oh, pit bulls are bad, they're terrible, that's not true at all.
It's power. So Rottweiler, German Shepherd, Belgian Malinois, Mastiff, you need to see it as power. And so if you want to bring this power into the city, and then you need to harness the power, right? So my two right hands were pit bulls, Daddy and Junior. Why did I want to my right hands to be Daddy? Because at that time, people were stereotyping pit bulls. And you know what I mean? I'm Mexican, so it's a Mexican and a pit bull teaching the world how to coexist. It has nothing to do with our race. I come from Sinaloa, so it's a very, high crime, the narco terror of my country. And I didn't become that way. So it has nothing to do with this breed of Mexican. Breed of dog is who is behind them is more important.
Okay, so we've got 20 years of this. What haven't you done that you want to do?
I want to go to different countries and teach the same thing. I want to go to, places where normally they don't really focus so much on dogs, and bring the message, because it's a beautiful message. It's about trust, respect, love. Think about Venezuela right now, safe, peace, love, right? That's the energy they want. So if they can't get it from the human, do it for the dog in the meantime. It's like back in my time, they told us to go back to church. So at least you have this relationship with God. But now, the dog is our faster connection to God and Mother Nature at the same time. Where can we experience trust, respect, love? What our leaders are not doing the right thing, right? We're the only species that follow unstable leaders. So our leaders are creating, in confusion and unhappiness and chaos. So in the meantime, while this is happening in the world, at least with our dogs, we can practice natural, simple, profound. So that is my next thing, because I see now through social media, how fast people can feel not safe.
You need to go to Washington. You need to fix all that, right?
Well, when the bites were happening, we did call Washington to let them know, hey guys, you need a safety protocol. I don't really, if you don't want me to work with the dog, that's fine. I just want the whole staff of the White House. So you guys learn how to prevent a dog biting, especially with the Secret Service. Come on, FBI, come over. CIA, come over. Everybody learn about a dog. And so the dog in the White House have a safety protocol.
Thanks, Bruce, for that interview. Real fascinating conversation. I mean, I'm not a huge dog person, but as we talked about earlier, but he had some interesting points there that dogs, they're smart animals, and they can sense you if you're not a dog person. They can tell that you're not really into them. And
he likes you. He really likes you.
He really does.
Right?
Yeah.
Now get the dog off me. Or if the dog, because I asked about, what if they need to go to the bathroom?
Yeah.
And he says you shouldn't be putting those pads all around the house for them to go just anywhere. You've got to train them the right way. So I guess I got to learn that out of my own life.
Right. And then, his point too is interesting about kind of those dogs that we sort of fear, like pit bulls and some of those that have, they got a bad rap. Right. And it's like, it's not the dog, it's it's the environment that they're in, but you can put, just because you're in that environment doesn't going to necessarily make, like, and he used his own personal, like, hey, I'm from Sinaloa, Mexico, which is it's very well known. If anyone follows along, that's where a lot of drug cartels, there's a lot of violence there, but it doesn't make him that kind of person. He's his own person, and he can do that. And that's the same with the dog. Is you can have a dog that's not well trained and trained to be a fighting dog and that kind of thing, but if you give it the love and the training it needs, it's fine.
Even Lassie had some bad days. Don't tick me off. I'm going to turn all Cujo on you. Look at aliens. There could be good aliens that we exist with, and they won't jump out at us like they might in Alien Romulus, and it'll be fine.
It'll be fine. They don't all burrow under our skin and burst through our chest cavities. There's like good aliens. There's Trebles from Star Trek, and then there's those crazy aliens from Alien.
A predator to come after them, and Alien versus Predator, right? We're starting now to get into the fall TV season. I've got an interview coming up next week, but we won't bring it next week with the second season of The Old Man with Jeff Bridges. And we'll bring that to you when we get it, but we haven't had that yet. But I did talk to Brian Jordan Alvarez. Now, look this guy up because he does great, very funny Instagram and YouTube things. And he's finally landed a series that he writes where he plays the English teacher. And that'll be one of the first new series out. It's a comedy. I thought it was fun. I thought it was really fun. But we'll bring him to you next week before you happen to see the series on FX.
More coming to FX, in which all roads lead to Hulu.
Yeah. And then D23. There'll be a ride for all of this stuff, too. Just wait. The English teacher ride, where they make fun of you if you don't have the comma in the right place, or if you've misspelled the word, or you don't know two, and two.
We need the bear of the ride, where it's just, you ride through a kitchen, and it's very stressful. They're just yelling at each other.
And the plate is small, and it has very small portions.
That's right. And they charge you a lot of money for it.
They charge you a fortune.
A fortune. All right. Well, on that note, Thanks again for listening, and we'll be back again next week with another episode of Streamed and Screened.